Alright, so that Zenless div stream was something, huh? So, Too Long Didn't Watch. In order, I would suggest Lycan first, especially if you're using Miyabi and Alan Joe. After him, I would suggest either Soldier 11 or Nekomata, depending on who you have. If you have Bernice slash Evelyn, don't pick up S11. If you have Jane Doe, then don't pick up Nekomata. After them, I would then suggest either Rina or Grace. Rina is the better option of the two, especially because Grace is only useful with Anomaly for now, and the only electric anomaly so far is Unagi. And then after that, I would then say Kaleida. Kaleida is the last character you want to go with. In terms of Vengeance, however, you want to go with the Brimstone first, then the Fusion Compiler, which is Grace's, then the Weeping Cradle, which is Rina's, then Hellfire Gears, which is Kaleida's, then the Restrained, which is Lycan's, and then Steel Cushion at dead last because of the physical damage only bonus, which is Nekomata's. So, for those that are actually going to stick around to the end and watch the full video, hello, my name is Ryukishi, and in the 2.0 dev livestream for Zenless Zone Zero, they announced that they are giving us a free S-Rank standard banner character and a free S-Rank Wenjin as well. So, players are going to be like, ooh, who do I pick? And, look up that. So hopefully with this video, I'll help you decide what the best choice is for you. There is an objective, go for this character over this character and whatnot, but I will say, if you don't care, click off the video. Why are you here? And secondly, my number one pick of who I would choose a character I don't have yet. However, depending on if it has a countdown / a limited time thing, like it's over the span of 100 days or something, I personally would wait until I lose my next 50/50 / 75/25 just to make sure I don't get that character. Because trust me, it happened before where I spent my 300 and I picked Lycan to only lose the 50/50 on Unagi's banner and get Lycan anyway. So that fucking sucked. Anyway, so in terms of objectively, who should you pick? Number one pick is Lycan. Simple answer. Especially if you main / use Ellen Joe or Miyabi. Lycan helps buff their damage quite a lot, and he is their best in slot stun support. Because his core passive ability is when he charges his basic attack to completion, the attack deals a percentage increased days. However, the important part is when his X special attack or assist follow-up hits an enemy, the target's ice damage resistance decreases by 25% for 30 seconds. He's also good with Hugo. I don't have Hugo, so I didn't name him. So, Lycan is a character who will get better over time because with more ice characters, he will be more useful with those other characters. His only crutch is that he can only be used in a team that shares the same attribute or faction, which means he can only be used in ice team comps / a team comp with Victoria Housekeeping, but if you're already using Ellen with him, then you already got that pair. So, Lycan is number one. Now, number two is a bit of a mixed bag, because it could be either Soldier 11 or Nekomata, depending on who you have. If you have Jane Doe, then I wouldn't recommend picking up Nekomata, even though Nekomata is still really solid. Soldier 11, I would also suggest if you have Bernice or Evelyn, especially Evelyn, then don't pick up S11. I'm still going to go over them if you don't have them. So it's just a matter of who don't you have. Like if you don't have a fire DPS unit, pick up S11. If you don't have a good physical damage dealing DPS, then pick up Nekomata. So both DPSs, one shares the same attribute or faction, S11, and then Nekomata shares the same attribute or faction. However, with Nekomata, she wants a character that can inflict Assault, and so for I believe Assault is basically the anomaly version of the attack, and the only character that can really provide that, aside from Jane, is Piper. But yeah, it's a battle between these two, so it depends on who you have, really. And then going with Rina, I would say she's the third most important for you to grab, because when she orders her puppets to attack, other squad members' penetration ratio, which is basically decreasing the target's defense, which is super useful, by 25% of her own penetration ratio, plus a percentage up to 30%. This effect ends when both of the puppets return to Rena. When another character in your squad shares the same attribute or faction, so it has to be Victoria Housekeeping or an electric character, most likely what's going to happen is electric only, increases the duration of shock, which is basically the anomaly version of assault, or the electric version of assault, inflicted on enemies by any character by 3 seconds. When shocked enemies are on the field, all squad members' electric damage increases by 10%. So she's good for specifically electric anomaly / electric damage in general. So characters like Silver Envy, Yanagi, even Haramasa, who's dog shit, would really like Rena. After her would be Grace, who I unfortunately don't fucking have. So Grace, when her basic attack or dash hits an enemy and deals physical damage, she gains a stack of zap up to 8. Upon reaching max, using a special or X special will consume all stacks of zap, increasing the accumulated electric anomaly build-up by 65%, which means she's only really good with Yanagi. When another character in your squad shares the same attribute or faction, most likely going to be attribute, and her faction is Bellabog, upon hitting an enemy with an X special, the next shock effect inflicted on the target increases shock damage by 18%. This effect can stack up to 2 times, and each enemy can trigger it once per skill use, resets when the shock effect ends. So, again, she only wants to work with electric anomaly, much like with Rena, but at the very least with Rena, she can still work even not in electric anomaly focused. So that's why I rate Grace lower. And then finally, let's talk about the worst character to pick, which is Cleda. But if you don't have her, you don't have her, that's fine. When she uses her X special attack or consumes Furnace Fire to use an enhanced basic, the day she deals increases by 30%, or just a percentage in general. And then her additional ability, when another character in your squad shares the same attribute or faction, which is Bellabog or Fire, when the explosion from her X special hits an enemy, it applies a debuff to the target while the target is stunned. All squad members' chain attacks to deal 35% more damage to the target. This effect can stack up to 2 times and resets when the stun effect ends. Now, I don't have Hugo, so I don't know how well this is, or how much this is true, but she could, in theory, work really well with Hugo as well, because of how Hugo's Totalize works. Granted, Hugo's Totalize isn't chain attack, but still, it could still be really fucking huge for him. But yeah, that is who I would recommend in terms of the characters. In terms of the Wenjins, let's go into those. So when it comes to Wenjins, the best one is obviously going to be the Brimstone, which is Soldier 11's Wenjin, purely because of what it provides. Upon hitting an enemy with a basic, dash, or dodge counter attack, the equipper's attack increases by a percentage for 8 seconds, stacking up to 8 times. This effect can trigger once every 0.5, the duration of each stack is calculated separately. It's a generic enough Wenjin that any attack character can use. So even if you don't have a limited attack specialist's Wenjin, and you do have the Brimstone, or if you plan on getting the Brimstone, this is a really solid pick. The next one would be the Fusion Compiler, which is Grace's. When using a special attack or X special, the equipper's anomaly proficiency is increased by 25 by a flat 25 for 8 seconds, sticking up to 3 times, which would mean 75. So this is another generic one that any anomaly character could use, but you have to use their special or X special attack, and have to have that important. Excuse me. The next, this one is tied for second, in my opinion, which is Reina's, the Weeping Cradle. While off-field, energy regen increases by 0.6 seconds, and then attacks from the equipper enhance the squad's damage against the struck target by 10% for 3 seconds. During this period, this effect is further increased by 1.7% every 0.5, up to a maximum additional increase of 10.2. Repeated triggers only refresh its duration without refreshing the damage increase effect. Passive effects of the same name do not stack. Same name. I don't know, because I don't have her. I don't know if this works well with Asha Yao, because technically, if you switch off of her, she's still on the field, but technically you're not using her. So I have no idea how it scales with Asha Yao, if you don't have Asha Yao's Wenjin anyway. But yeah. Hellfire Gears I would recommend next. It's also pseudo-generic, but only works because while off-field, the equipper's energy regen increases by 0.6 seconds. When using an X special, the equipper's impact is increased by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So this is only good if your stun character is an off-field stunner instead of an on-field stunner. I imagine then it would work really well for Pulchra and Trigger, because they're technically off-field. But if them attacking them while on the field, even though you're not currently using them, I don't know how that works, which is why I have it rated after. And then the fifth one I would go after would be the Restraint, which is Lycan's. This one is for on-field stun characters. So characters like Qingyi and Lighter would make good use of this, because when an attack hits an enemy, damage and daze from basic attacks increase by 6% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. This effect can trigger at most once during each skill. The duration of each attack is calculated separately. So this one works specifically for on-field stunners, while Hellfire Gears work specifically for off-field stunners. And then Steel Cushion is the one I would recommend the least, because, unfortunately, increases physical damage by 20%. The equipment's damage increases by 25% when attacking the enemy from behind. So this will only work with attack characters that do physical damage. And currently, we don't have another limited physical damage dealing attack character yet. Because all of the attackers that have been released have been different elements, and not physical. And even then, we do have Billy and Korn that could make use of it, but why would you use those two? Those two suck. Especially when the other effect is attacking from behind. So, with that all said and done, from the top, I would recommend Lycan first. If you don't have Bernice or Evelyn, I would recommend Soldier 11. If you don't have Jane Doe, I would recommend Nakamata. I would then recommend Rena, then Grace, then Kaleda last. For the Wenjins, I would recommend the Brimstone first, then the Fusion Compiler, then Weeping Cradle, then Hellfire Gears, then the Restrained, and not to pick up Steel Cushion unless if you have a physical damage dealing attack DP or a attack character that deals physical damage, period. I would not pick Steel Cushion over anything. So, I'm sure you don't give a shit, but for those curious, who would I go for? Well, all things considered, I have every single fucking standard character, unfortunately. I even have Kaleda at M1. I have M0 Rena. I have Lycan M1, unfortunately. And Soldier 11 I recently just got. I also have M1 Nakamata. So my choice is pretty obvious. I would pick Grace. I don't have her yet. Nor do I have her Wenjin either. I don't think I have Kaleda's Wenjin either. I do not. But I'm still going to be picking up Grace's Wenjin because I want to pick up the character and her Wenjin. That's another thing I should talk about too. If you already have dupes of the characters, then whose dupe is more valuable? This is mostly for free-to-play players, so if you're not free-to-play, / if you have multiple copies of a character, I'm not going to go into their 2, their 3, their 4, their 5, or their 6. I'm just going to go with M1. So, let's dive right into that, shall we? So, Nakamata's M1 is very good for her. When Nakamata hits an enemy from behind, she ignores 16% of her target's physical resistance, which is huge. And if the enemy is stunned, all of her attacks are considered back attacks. So if you have her Wenjin, no problem whatsoever, so long as the enemy gets stunned. Yeah, excuse me. Next up would be S11, or next in line is S11. When she enters combat or switches in, if her energy is less than 40, her energy is recovered to 80. This effect can trigger once every 50 seconds. That is super invaluable for S11, given how she functions and deals her fire damage. Because you kind of have to time her attacks right in order to get fire damage going, / tag her in and do fire damage for a brief moment, and then use her special attack. So this is invaluable for her. So both of these two are tied again, depending on if you already have the character, and if you main the character to begin with. Lycan's M1 is kind of useful, actually. When his X special attack hits an enemy, the attack's daze increases by 12%. This effect can trigger once every 8 seconds. When he charges his X special to completion, this buff will increase by an additional 10%, which is kind of nice. Rena's is also really good, and probably better than Lycan. Granted, it just depends on who you use it for team comps. After being sent out to launch an attack, Drusilla and Estella stay in place for an additional 5.5 seconds before returning to Rena. The buff gained from her core passive by characters within 10 meters is increased to 130%, which is massive. Kaleda's is not as good. After the second or fourth hit of her basic attack or her enhanced basic, quickly use a special attack or X special to increase the days dealt by 15%. Hers is not good. I wouldn't recommend picking up her M1. And then Grace's M1. When the fourth attack of her basic attack hits an enemy, all squad members gain 0.25 energy. Within the same move, this effect can grant a max of 2 energy to all squad members, which isn't super useful, so both Grace's and Kaleda's aren't as good as the other characters. For Nekomata and S11, I would only recommend them if you main those two characters as your physical DPS and your fire DPS. Rina, I would recommend the most if you use her in shock comps. And then Lycan, I would recommend Rina and Lycan's the most between those two, depending on which kind of team comps you prefer and use overall. But yeah, apologies if this video is seemingly all over the place. It's unscripted as hell, and I needed to look up what these characters did. So hopefully I helped you in deciding who to go for. But again, like I said before, wait until you lose your next 50-50/75-25 before picking up the character. That's what I'm going to do personally, even though as bad as I want Grace, because I've yet to fucking get her, I'm going to wait. Because I don't trust my luck. Now, I did recently lose my 50-50. Gee, I wonder who I lost it to. But you'll just have to wait until I pull for Yishuan, because I have no pulls. So, yeah. Granted, I may pick up Asher Yao, depending on things. But anyway, I've been Rikishi, and hopefully this video helped you decide on who to go for. But, who are you going for to begin with, anyway? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I've been Rikishi, and I'll see you next time.